Welcome to the RCR Mobilist. I'm Martha DeGrasse. Our topic today is telecom talent, hiring veterans to fill the pipeline in wireless. An estimated 175,000 military personnel are expected to re-enter civilian life during the next year, and many will be looking for jobs in telecom and wireless. Our sponsor today is AT&T, and we're going to take a minute to learn about AT&T's commitment to hiring veterans. For nearly 100 years, AT&T has remained dedicated to supporting active military personnel and their families through charitable contributions, event and program sponsorships, job placement, and policies that support reservist employees called to active duty. With a talent attraction team devoted exclusively to military recruitment, AT&T successfully developed outreach programs. These programs advise and encourage transitioning veterans and their families in their pursuit of employment. AT&T recognizes the unique skill sets held by veterans, and through the use of a military skills translator and other tools, the company assists in aligning military skills with civilian jobs. Other critical components of the Military Talent Attraction Program include educating hiring managers and recruiters on the value of hiring veterans, as well as translating military experience on resumes and dispelling myths about veterans' ability to integrate into corporate America. I'd like to introduce our guests today. Arthur Hernandez is with AT&T. He's an electronic warfare database and systems analyst currently working on a government solutions contract. Hernandez is also a chief in the Navy Reserves, working for an intelligence unit. He made his first connection with AT&T while still in the military, working in an AT&T signals facility while he was on active duty in the military. Chris Norton is AT&T's program manager for military talent attraction. Chris is a 16-year veteran of the United States Army, and he spent a year in Iraq where he was lead planner for a brigade support operations team. And we're also joined today by Jennifer Schoenhofer. She is CEO of infrastructure provider Axis Technologies. Axis does a lot of business with AT&T and shares the company's commitment to hiring veterans. Schoenhofer's father was in the Army and the Air Force. He was a veteran of both the Korean and the Vietnam Wars. Jennifer, I know the Red Cross helped your family a lot during that time and that you are currently an active Red Cross volunteer. We appreciate very much you joining us today and sharing Axis's veteran and military recruitment program with us. I think it's a good cue. Chris, I'd like to and translate those skills. Can you talk a little bit about some of the skill sets that hiring managers see on those resumes and how you help translate some of those to civilian jobs?
Sure. So, from the outset, there's a lot of compelling reasons to recruit from the military to begin with. The bottom line is the veteran community is just simply good for business. You're talking about a population, generally speaking, that demonstrates a whole list of attributes that are real keen to, a hiring manager. You're looking to either grow or backfill positions in your operating unit. So you want people that that they can demonstrate an accelerated learning curve. You need people that can lead as well as follow, know how to work as part of a team, but at the same time, have other attributes that you look for from an AT&T perspective as well as other employers. You understand diversity, inclusion, and action. You know how to work under pressure. You have respect for procedures. You're not a loose cannon, so to speak. Importantly for obviously the listeners here, how to apply technology in a theoretical as well as a field type environment. High level of integrity as well as a related understanding of what it truly means to be part of a global organization. And particularly in our industry, have a high level of consciousness for health and safety standards. So there's a whole long. I could go on and on. But you're talking about a company that has needs with all of these attributes, and when you recruit from the military, you get access right away to people that will have those. It's understood. It's part of the culture. I hate to use the phrase, it's been drilled into you, a lot of this stuff, but that's the reality. It's rote memory, a lot of these things. So it's really a win-win. When you recruit from the military, you get a lot of aspects in your candidate pool, and hopefully your new hires that'll help you grow your business and move forward.
a success story coming from the military to a civilian job and balancing that with the reserves. Can you speak specifically about how your training has helped you on the job?
Yeah, I can do that. Basically, when I first came on an active duty, my mentality was, go out there, make a lot of money, and do what I can. But joining the military, it was a different environment, team focus, a lot of communication structure, relying on teammates and understanding your job. And kind of like Chris said, there were certain things, whether it was battle assessments, whether it was medical assessments. I mean, there was things that just built upon each other. So, when I acclimated from the active duty to the reserves, and then deployed back in 2010, 2011, I carried all those attributes with me. And, I was fortunate enough to, have some people who were civilians out there, and they kind of saw some of the qualities that I possessed, and they were like, "Wow, this guy's really, structured, team oriented," and that, those attributes, allowed me to land the job that I currently have now.
That's excellent. Now, I know with AT&T, the company is much too large to talk about all the different things that military personnel can do and are doing at the company. You've mentioned jobs ranging from tower climbers to medical personnel that have come from the military. But Jennifer, at Axis, you're a smaller company, and I believe you have currently 10% of your employees are currently former military. So maybe you can speak a little bit about some of the specific roles that former military personnel are filling at Axis.
Well, and we're very proud of that 10%, and a portion of that is actually even women. So that's, as a women-owned business, we're pretty excited and proud of that. But with the demand and the data growth and the usage, it does create a demand for people. And what we are needing help in is not only LTE, the decommissioning of older networks, commissioning and acceptance of new electronics installed at sites, project management skills, field crew, supervisory, and as you mentioned a few moments ago, tower climbers. Those are a tremendous demand, and we have a shortage of those skill sets right now because of the growth that we're experiencing, and so we're very excited about building our teams through veterans.
That's
And
great.
we've
Okay,
had good experience too with them. Same things that Chris and Arthur said. They're quick learners, they're disciplined, they get the job done, they work well with teams.
good. Well, that's a good transition into the next thing I'd like to talk about, which is translating some of these skills on a resume. I think you've all mentioned that military personnel bring great personal characteristics to the job, but Chris, I know that you and I have had conversations about making those exact technical skills pop on a resume when there may be 100 resumes in a pile that a hiring manager is looking at, and the way technical skills are described on a military person's resume may be a little different than the way someone else might describe them. Can you speak a little bit to how you coach people to tweak their resumes?
Sure. The military's got its in each of the branches. So, Arthur and I obviously we both are in the military, but we're in different branches of the service. And the Navy's got a whole different language as opposed to the Army. We kind of will joke between each other about some of those differences in the terminology, but it also carries over to to the private sector. And even if you look between industry, from industry to industry and business to business, you have the same thing as well, but it's particularly pronounced where you just have a very specific set of terminology that doesn't necessarily directly transfer when it might actually be the same thing. The example that comes to mind, and I think it's been normalized in the last couple of years, but it used to be the case that, and Arthur, you could probably, with your background, you could probably narrow in on it some more, but back in the day, Cat 5 cable that we all know around the office was called something different in the services. I think it was like Cat 3. It's the same stuff. It's the exact same cable, but it's different nomenclature. And if we were to spell out in a requisition that, hey, you need to have extensive experience, a string in Cat 5, that could have two impacts. It could deter a candidate from applying for the job. Well, I don't know anything about Cat 5. I only know Cat 3.
Yeah.
And then on the flip side, you've got a high volume transaction-based recruiting force that is now looking. I have to find candidates that have experience with Cat 5. No, this guy's got Cat 3. All right, get rid of him. So the gap in terminology and the culture that goes along with it can really impact what that hiring manager actually sees in front of them. So there's a couple phases in it. You have to get the candidate so they understand what's being asked for in terms of the job opportunity. Then you need to get the recruiter so they understand what's being presented to them in terms of a resume. And then the third level is, okay, let's get the hiring manager spun up so they understand what they're looking at in terms of a job applicant. There's just a lot of cultural gaps that exist as a force now. Percentage-wise, you're talking about less than 0.5%. It's around 0.45% of the U.S. population of a service age wears the uniform these days. And and that's great. We don't have a huge defense requirement anymore, which is fantastic. But the negative side of that is, very few people have intimate experience with A, what it means to serve in the military, and B, what all this language means. So when that person tries to transition out from one culture into the other, there's a lot of hurdles they have to get through. No one's fault. It's just a numbers game. And frankly, that's why companies like AT&T have people in my position to help with that transition. So I will literally meet with our recruiters, our hiring managers, and go through, hey, what is the value of veterans to AT&T? Why is it important? What do we get out of it? The WIFM argument. But more importantly, how do I understand what all this stuff means? Help me with the translation. Help me understand what these what characteristics am I getting? And really walk the dog line by line in a lot of cases. It's not uncommon for somebody to go, well, this guy says he's an infantry company commander. Well, we don't have infantry companies at AT&T. Well, what good does this guy offer me? Well, I can tell you, an infantry company commander is a general manager that has a lot of highly technical, a very high level of operations tempo and a lot of stress and a lot of requirements behind it that we can use in about 100 different places at AT&T. You're talking about the tip of the spear, so to speak. These guys are really the best of the best when it comes down to running a given operation. We have a lot of places we can benefit from a person with that background, but if you get stuck on the terms, you're never going to make a connection. Part of my pitch for a while was we used to hire everything but cooks until I met the chefs that we have in our Dallas headquarters, so I kind of had to change that pitch. So, given a little time, you can make a match between any particular program and any background in the military.
So for the job seekers out there, how can they best make that match? What's the best way when you're looking at a big company, to find the hiring manager that might be best able to understand your specific skill set?
Well, so part of that is, number one, that's going to be tough. Particularly if you're targeting an AT&T, it's going to be very difficult to find the hiring managers you just suggested. But one thing that historically, folks in the service haven't been real good at, and I think there's some momentum to get better at, is networking. Typically in the military, you don't have to network, particularly on the active duty side. You get your next assignment. It's literally called an assignment because you were assigned that role. And as a result, you don't have to network to find the next job. It kind of finds you. I see a lot more people as they prepare to get out, and they're taking advantage of the transition training that's out there. They're taking advantage of the social network tools that are out there to build a network, to reach out, to find out a little bit more about various industries that are out there. So, hey, I have this background in, again, I'll go back to Army because that's what I know best. I'm a 25 series in the Army, which is a telecom guy. I have a LAN WAN background, a little bit of wireless. Let me look at a couple different industries. The wireless and commercial industry being one of them. Let me find somebody that's in these companies that I know support it. So I get a lot of people reaching out to me that way. Hey, Norton, I saw you work in telecom. Can you point me in the right direction? And so that's a step in the right direction. It allows that transitioning service member to link up ahead of time with a with somebody that can give them some guidance. We actually have a program here at the company that we call AT&T Careers for Vets, where we do exactly that off of our military portals page, or our military portal page. We offer the opportunity to partner up a transitioning veteran, somebody that already works inside the business, to help cultivate that relationship and get additional information at the right time, in other words, in advance of their transition. And it does a couple things. It gives them knowledge, but it also helps them build their network.
And what about finding smaller companies like yours, Jennifer? How do you think that veterans find companies like Axis that have a priority for veterans and military personnel?
Well, we kind of take it as a two-prong approach. We are responsibility, because you're right, Chris, they don't really know how to kind of get out there and figure out how to network. So as a small company, you have to just take responsibility, you're there to help them. So we have reached out to, Fort Bragg, Fort Gordon, the Signal Corps headquarters, talking to their officers there to help them, sit down with them, interview with them, the NCOA, the Non-Commissioned Officers Association. So because we've made that commitment to hire veterans, we have extended the olive branch, if you will, to let them know that we care, we're out there, we place it on our website, we actively go to the job boards, we go to the job boards that are for veterans, and then internally, my Chief Operating Officer, Eric Moore, is a veteran, so he is in charge of our recruiting department, and we have a couple of veterans that are part of recruiting, so they can help sit down one-on-one with the veterans and help them design and tailor their resumes, interview them more intensely on getting those verbiage that you mentioned, Chris, and translating it from a Cat 5, Cat 3, and really understanding that, and translating some of our manufacturers like Nokia and Ericsson and things, so they can take their skill sets and actually communicate to us what that means on how we can address the with them. So as a smaller company, we're actually taking more of an active role and more responsibility in reaching out to them and bringing them to us, because we know if we can help in that regards, then we can help our partners like AT&T fill some of those positions with veterans. So it's a little different on our side of the fence in trying to create that partnership with our customer AT&T and then with the veterans and building that bridge and that gap.
Arthur,
we definitely benefit from that. We really do.
Thank you, Chris. Arthur, maybe you can talk about this a little bit from the job seeker's perspective. I know that you had a relationship with AT&T before you came to work for them, and I'm sure that helped. But nonetheless, maybe you can talk a little bit about applying to a job at a large corporation after being in the military and translating some of those skills.
Okay. Well, let me back up a little bit. Like Chris was saying and Jennifer, the military and also the reserves, they provide excellent programs like the TAP program, Transitioning Assistance Program for veterans who are leaving either active service or reserve service. They also, while you're on active duty or in the reserves, there's other programs in the Navy. I'm not so familiar with the Army or the Air Force or even the Marine Corps. Well, actually, the Marine Corps is a part of the Navy, so sorry, guys. But and where you would go in there, and like in my case, I'm a cryptological technical technician. I know that's a tongue twister, but I would go in there, I would plug in my rate, and then I would see how my job skills correlate to civilian side of the house. So I know a lot of active duty members are going to this Navy Cools website and finding more about their rate and seeing how they can acclimate their rate to civilian side of the house. With that, there's lots of funding out there that the Navy provides. So people in this field, the information systems field, can go and get their certain certifications. If they want to go pull fiber, they can learn how to pull fiber correctly, what type of fiber, and those type of such things. Fast forwarding, when I came off of active duty again, unfortunately, I didn't take advantage of the TAP program like I should have. I don't think the program was in full swing when I came off active duty in 2007. But when I came back from Iraq, I was sure to take advantage of the TAP program and the other things that the military offered me as a veteran. And I truly believe that is the real reason why AT&T picked me up. I was able to verbalize and make sure and display to AT&T, the hiring managers, the different types of job skills that I had and how it related to what those job functions at AT&T were. So like Chris and Jennifer said, I mean, it put me in a better position as a veteran, because it is true when you come out there and I'm working on the full spectrum. Like most people would be like, full spectrum, what is he talking about? What is he doing with the full spectrum? Is he is he doing something that's not right? But those type of things where I can take that, chop it down, and put it into the proper verbiage where a civilian person who's never dealt with the military would understand.
Okay, and now speaking of verbiage, I'm thinking some people may want to find the websites that you're talking about. So TAP is TAP, right? That they should be able to find that. And then Navy Cools, is that COOLS, just like it sounds?
Navy Cools.
Okay, great. And let's take just a minute to talk again about the resumes. I know that, Chris, you mentioned that people have their assignments, and those of us in civilian life are used to preparing resumes where we talk about what we've accomplished and our promotions and searching for new jobs. But in the military, I think that maybe some people just have one assignment after the other, and maybe it's harder for a hiring manager to know which promotions are more meaningful than others. Are there ways that people can position themselves to show which of their assignments may have been the hardest to come by, or may show the highest level of skill or proactiveness?
Yeah, I mean, so part of the. You go ahead, Arthur.
If you don't mind, let me just take a little intro on this. I know, again, coming off of active duty, there are special programs out there. Again, fleet forces and family services out there, where they would take a veteran or whether on active duty just came off active duty. Even their spouses, they would take those individuals and they would help them cater their resume to their specific jobs or the specific jobs that they're applying for. So those are a lot of programs out there that veterans should be taking advantage of. If you're not out there taking advantage of, it's free service.
Yeah,
it's a free service that's afforded for veterans out there, and not just for the veterans themselves, for their family members.
Well,
I'm sorry, because I didn't mean to steal your thunder.
Jennifer, you look like you were about to say something.
Well, I was just saying it's good for the companies then too, because they're one step ahead already. They're getting their head in the game because they're hungry, they're excited, they are enthusiastic, they're energized. But if they have a little bit of a warm up and a practice, and they take advantage of the programs that the military is providing them, then it gets them focused and like I just said, gets their head in the game. And it kind of takes the butterflies and just the nervousness, and it builds their confidence back up. So then when they are talking to us and we're trying to help, even more so take it down to another level of translation of military verbiage into civilian verbiage, just makes that process much quicker, much smoother, because jobs, they come and go very quickly. So we have to be able to react very quickly because it's competitive out there. So we want to make sure we put them in the best light. So if they do take advantage of these programs, it just helps everybody. It helps the companies, it helps themselves, and it just speeds up the process to get them back in the work, back on assignment, if you will.
Chris, did you want to say something about that?
Yeah, I was just, I was going to say part of it is, in terms of prepping your resume to translate. Sometimes you do need to sit down and spend a little quality time and figure out, well, what does this actually mean? What could this possibly equate to in industry? So, I'm a sergeant. Does that look like a shift supervisor, maybe? Does that look like an operations manager, depending on what grade I am? E6, 7, 8. 9. So what does that spell out to, and how do you want to present yourself? Because the other part of the conversation is, it's what did you do, but the bigger part is what do you want to do. You're coming out, you've got a whole host of attributes. You've had the opportunity at least to get yourself very well educated. The education benefits are world class. And so you come out with really, where do you want to go? What do you want to do? Is part of the conversation I typically have with people. But to get there, you have to sell yourself, and that's kind of the other part that typically is lost. You don't have to sell yourself. You don't have to network, and so that's kind of a big jump as well. Step back. Pause for a little bit. Think about what you're trying to accomplish, and present yourself in that manner.
Let's talk specifically for a minute about project managers. I know project managers are very much in demand in telecom and wireless right now, and I think that a lot of military jobs essentially are project managers. Would you agree?
Absolutely. So, previously at AT&T, I was a project manager, and then I ran a program team related to a combination of supply chain and customer care activities we had going on. I can tell you, I've never felt the operational need to go out and pursue a PMP from the simple fact of, primarily what the military does is project management. We call them missions. Okay, define start point, define end point, series of tasks in between that have to get accomplished in order to be successful. The military has been doing it for a real long time. In fact, we invented the whole concept of project management in the lead up into the invasion of Europe in 1944. You had a very complex series of events that needed to be synchronized very closely in order for things to play out the way they needed to. So when you're looking for project managers, and obviously technicians, we talked a little bit about that before, but you would be hard pressed to do worse. Let me make sure I'm phrasing this properly. You're real smart to recruit out of the military when you're looking for project management or project managers, because that's what we do. From all levels on up. Using myself as an example, but it would certainly apply to just about any of the officers that come out. You start planning projects and missions when you're a cadet in your ROTC or your academy or whatever program you come in at. Once you hit E5 in the armed forces, now you have some supervisory responsibilities. You're typically going to be in charge of running some stuff. They all look like missions to me. They all look like projects, and you can certainly do worse. The only thing you need to understand is you're going to have a candidate that may not mention before, though. There's a lot of certification programs out there that us bubbas coming out of the service can take advantage of to get that piece of paper and make yourself more marketable. Just understand it's different language, different terminology, but it's the same stuff.
So would you advise people to go ahead and take advantage of those certification programs if they can?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, in my case, I didn't, go back and do it again. Absolutely. I've been transitioned for a while, so to speak, so I haven't felt that need. But if you're in that position, if you're, looking 6 months to a year out, which a lot of guys are doing now, take the time, sit down, do the prep work, take the exam. You certainly will have enough documented experience during your period of service to get the PMP credentials taken care of.
Okay, sounds like good advice. And let's take a minute to talk a little bit more about any specific job descriptions. I know that at AT&T with UVerse, there's a high demand for premise technicians, and that you mentioned that as a job that was often appropriate for veterans. Can you talk about that just a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So, we one of the growth areas of the business is our UVerse product. It's it's our version of the internet, TV, and other services to the home. It's an excellent product, and we're growing very rapidly throughout the country. And we need people to install it. We have found that it's a very attractive program for typically junior enlisted members that may have done, one enlistment and got, decided to get out. The pay is good, great benefits. But what seems to be very attractive is, we need people that have a level of physical fitness to do the job. Number one, I mean, you are figuring out how to install this at a customer site. No two look the same. You have to have the ability to figure stuff out while you're there. Use some tools, and Arthur will back me up on this. The troops know how to get things done. Okay, you'd be hard pressed to find somebody that doesn't know how to use tools and fix things, if you will. And that's an attribute that's very very attractive. What we find is that people respond very well to, what, I'm given an opportunity to kind of be my own boss, to work without a lot of direct oversight. I'm given a set of objectives. It's my job to accomplish those objectives every day. And we found that our retention in this program is very, very high when compared to the general population. So we're seeing it as a real good fit. It's a great way to get on board with an excellent company. Speaking as a reserve member, I've been here since 2005. The company's been fantastic for me as a veteran, as a reserve member. Great way to get on board with a great company, and there's a lot of opportunity there.
Okay, you mentioned staying with the job as something that you see more from military people than perhaps from some other hires. So before we finish, I'd like to give each of you an opportunity to talk just a little bit about the character profile of a typical military hire. I think you've all mentioned at one point during this that you were favoring that profile, and I'd just like to give you each a minute to elaborate on that. Jennifer, would you like to start?
Well, I really have to back what Chris has said, about project management. They know how to work under fire. They know how to get the job done. They know how to think out of the box. They know how to work with teams. And this is what we've experienced. They're quick learners. They're disciplined. They're always on schedule. They are all about safety and quality, and right now that's huge in the telecom industry. One of our customers that we're trying to develop a strong partnership, in addition to AT&T's, they're the largest vendor of AT&T for about 30 years, and they're going to be part of that UVerse install. And the whole idea is, if I want to be a great partner to not only AT&T but our future customer here, it's about quality and workmanship and loyalty, and not having to manage turnover, but to manage the quality and workmanship of the job. And the veterans, that they're excellent leaders, and that's all we've ever experienced with every single one that we've ever hired. And I intend to make that commitment and take that responsibility to continue that, because I know it will strengthen us as a company, as a nation, and my customers, like AT&T, who supported me and has believed in a minority-owned business, to mentor me and to help me out, and I put people to work, and so I plan on making them a part of my workforce because of their value-based system, and it really is about quality and TL 9000, and so that's my little 2 minutes. I don't want to take the boys' time.
I don't think they mind. Jennifer Schoenhofer, Access Technologies, thank you very much. We appreciate your time. Arthur, before we finish, can you just talk a little bit about the qualities that you as a veteran bring to your job and others around you? I think that it's hard to top what Jennifer said, but I bet you can do it.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to top what Jennifer said and also what Chris said earlier. Specific skill sets, I would say, you have your hard skills and your soft skills. Soft skills are, more like your communication skills, how you are during meetings, how you present yourself under fire, or to say in a stressful environment. Then you have your hard skills, which would be like how you interact with different types of programs, like Word, XML, JavaScript, stuff like that. And from an analyst point of view, and that's what I do at AT&T. I'm a database systems analyst. I have to take all these different types of systems. I have to, break it down, figure it out, reverse engineer it, and do certain things, and then take it from there, and then put it out to the rest of the guys out there in an intelligent manner where they understand and they can decipher what I'm saying to them. So, I mean, to plug what Jennifer and Chris said, I mean, teamwork, great communication, understanding, adaptability, flexibility. Those are key things that veterans bring to the civilian workforce, and especially with AT&T.
Sounds good. Chris, do you have any last words?
Just a couple things to add on. Certainly have to echo everything Jennifer and Arthur just said, but a couple things that were left out that I know I didn't talk about earlier were, certainly, I phrase it as, do what you say you're going to do. That commitment piece that, as a manager, there's nothing worse than having to chase down your people when they said they were going to do something and they didn't do it, and then it bubbles up to your level. It's just a distraction. It doesn't facilitate the smooth flow of business, and veterans are typically pretty good at honoring those commitments that they make. So that's a huge plus. And then the other thing is decisiveness. We live in a very fast-paced society at this point. The other thing that typically paralyzes an organization is when people just can't make a decision. Right, wrong, or indifferent, sometimes you're better off making a decision, and veterans will have learned through experience, when it's appropriate to make a decision and execute as opposed to, freeze. So those are some attributes that are real, can be real game changers for any organization. I think a lot of managers find it refreshing. Certainly the feedback loop I've been involved in has typically, thanks for getting them to me. I hear that a lot, and it really makes me, I know for a fact I've got the best job in the company, so, and I get that reinforced almost daily with feedback like that.
All right, Chris Norton, AT&T, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much for joining us. And Jennifer, thank you. This has been the RCR Mobilist. I'm Martha DeGrasse, and thank you to our sponsor, AT&T. This is the conclusion of this broadcast. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.